Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dmel podcast. I'm Dmel with my special guest here today. I am honored to present Uros, who I'll give a short introduction. He was my instructor in the beginning, and now that I've grown through the years of politics and governance, I have become more knowledgeable on what kind of amazing person he is, and he is literally the first instructor that I wanted to have on the Dmel podcast to teach my viewers many things, to teach me many things, because I've learned a lot. And yeah, could you please give yourself like a good introduction of who Uros Prokic is? And
who is Uros Prokic? Well, David, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you today. We've known each other for 3 years, and I think it's been a fruitful relationship, a growing relationship.
For sure.
So yes, I'm Uros. I'm the chair of the Master of Public Affairs program at AUA and the interim chair of the Master of International Relations and Diplomacy program, both of the graduate program. So I'm a chair of two chairs. So I have a big chair.
It's like the Game of Thrones, but you have two chairs.
Yes. I don't know on which one to sit, but I have to keep both warm at the same time. I teach at AUA. I've been teaching there for 3 years. That's how we came to know. I teach in both the undergrad politics and governance, and I teach in the master's, both programs. I'm originally from Serbia. People call me Euros. I only accept dollars, as I say. Yes, my name is Uros. I'm originally from Serbia, but I lived across the world. I lived in Dubai. I spent my childhood in Dubai. I went to university in the UK, my master's in Australia, and then my PhD in the United States. So I'm a bit of everywhere. And my wife is American, and you know what they say: you are where your wife is from.
Exactly.
So I guess I have to say that I'm to a certain extent Americanized. Yeah. So there we'll go with that.
I mean, the thing that I found fascinating when we started politics and governance, and you told the same story, like you said, I'm from all over the place. I'm like, wait, I'm from all over the place as well, but I'm a young lad.
Young lad.
I also lived in Abu Dhabi for 6 years, and I remember you telling stories about Dubai and your whole trip when you went to get your master's and when you got your PhD. I remember it was in philosophy. There was a story about philosophy, right?
Yeah. I got my undergrads in philosophy and then in religion. Very practical, purely great for being in the unemployment line. Yeah. But to think highly of yourself while you're in the unemployment line.
I mean, every philosopher's we study them, so they
Only after do you become really famous and important to society, apparently.
After like 40 years, Hamo's going to be reading Uros Prokic's guidelines.
First instructor, then guru.
Guru.
Yeah.
So the topics I want to touch up on today is mostly a mix of what I've grasped throughout the years in AUA from your classes, because you're the only guy, you're the head macho of this governance idea that no one's understanding, but I'm gratefully and so grateful that I actually understood this whole paradigm, this whole idea. And I want to implement that in this podcast in the Armenian sphere. I want us to try to discuss this, to try to understand what's the future looking like for us. So the first thing, like a very broad question, like how is Armenia doing in terms of development and overall governance? And what is governance? Because you asked that question for 7 weeks.
I still asking.
No one gave you the answer except me on the last day. I remember that.
Yeah, I think you got two very interesting, topics here, and they kind of, flow into one another, if you will. If let's go with first governance, then we can talk about development. Governance is about processes, right? Processes of rule. All these processes of rule, right? If you think about kind of the devolution of political science, we used to think of it purely in terms of institutions, right? And especially in the democratic sense, when you think about liberal democracy and what liberal democracy is, it's also about institutions, right? And then people are like, why are people rebelling against institutions? Because institutions can only go so far, right? People are important, and I think, I'll tell you that, is that governance takes you that step further, right? We're not saying no to institutions, but we're also saying that institutions can take you so far, and then you've got to think about the processes within those institutions and outside of those institutions, right? What can bring that democracy and all that, the greatness of what is democracy to fruition? And that's through through governance. And it's about processes, but it's also practice, right? That you do it every day, and And it's a thing that morphs and it develops through time. It's not, okay, these processes forevermore. It's about processes, what can work today might not work tomorrow. People change, institutions change, and these processes, they morph and they're more flexible. And so it's about that, and how do we get the best processes in place, but we also that we make those processes meaningful. Yeah.
You know what I also remember? The big topic for debate that I wasn't understanding. I'm like, okay, in Armenia, we have an illiterate society. Like, literacy is a huge problem, right? I'm like, every person wants something different, and we can't find that middle ground. That's why there's conflict of interest everywhere. It's not gonna basically evolve into something big and all of these ideas that the West has this, because I'm loving this. But first of all, how would you say like that literacy problem? How is that going to be addressed for this to actually work out? Because it's the process of rule and the practice of it, right?
Yeah.
So in Armenia, and of course the people's participation as well. Like,
yeah, you have to participate. All of these people have to participate. You can build schools, right? You can give people books, but the question is, okay, do they find them meaningful? How are you actually going to implement this? How are people that, school starts at 8 till 1 or 8 till 2, it depends, I don't know, in what school you go to. But then after school, do you actually reinforce that through parents, through this whole structure outside that, hey, reading something is valuable, right? It has some meaning there, and getting everybody involved in that is much different than just building schools and putting books on a library shelf. And here you go, let's have a literary society. So yeah, it's much more than that.
And in Armenia, why I mentioned Armenia specifically, in Armenia, it's always been a big issue on what the person is like. Let's say your instructor tells you to do this, and then you're like, who are you to tell me what it is? It's always that question in schools even. Like, why haven't you done your homework? Why would I do my homework? It's always this issue, It's always standing up and, I'm sorry, but being a the end of the day.
Yeah, this kind of it's actually a kind of a conflict. It starts from a point of conflict between you. Yeah,
it's never looked at before in the Soviet times in Armenia. Like, what we've learned from our parents is that they got hit, they had the rulers. We never saw that, but those people, mostly literate, they know their stuff. They know what was taught. Of course, it was in a system where it was closed off, and they learned what they were taught, and nothing else. Never that
regurgitation kind of
exactly.
Thing,
Never outside the box. Never thinking critically, but they learned. And what would you think is like a model for this developing this and development in general? How could it be done? Like us, let's say as AUA. I'm not a graduate yet, but he's one of the most gifted professors I've ever seen.
Oh God!
Oh yeah, I'm gonna kiss ass. I'm gonna kiss ass the whole
Wow,
video.
You're really marketing me.
Yeah. Well, of course, everyone's gonna choose your classes at least. He really taught me most of the things that I don't want to diss other instructors, but like throughout the 3 years, I only used what he taught me, and I was like, chill. I think
it's a confluence of all of us, and everything comes together in pieces.
But you're all the pieces, and then I just put the ones in the middle.
Sometimes
when you make a puzzle, you got the borders at the edges first, and then you do the center. Like, you're the edges. You keep everything stable, everything's fine.
Oh God, okay.
And yeah, so governance and as well development.
Yeah.
For me, development, I see it like this. Like, society needs to develop, and it needs to be a literate society. Like, I feel as though if you're not, like, we come from a place of privilege. We study. We're studying in the best university in Armenia. Don't quote me on that, but it's just statistics. Like, statistically, our people make the most money at the end, just like that. But we're privileged, and a lot of them are not. So a lot of school systems in the world, they're not as good as ours. Like, ours is terrible, but there's worse.
Yeah.
Like, we're a third world country in this case.
You're a developing country. Let's go somewhere in the middle.
We're developing, but we're going like this. Like, it's always like an up and down. It's never like a plateau.
When is there ever a plateau or a progressive incline in development? It's
always up there.
Yeah,
but you have like of course the most developed countries.
Oh,
and then you look at them, it's not even a plateau. They just go always up and a bit more up and like a little bit more and just a bit down, and it's like a big mess. And for them, like, when you have one thing that doesn't go their way, let's say they're used to that up, we're always the best, this one little thing happens, everyone's in chaos.
Yeah.
But here it's not always like that. Like,
this is a coping mechanism. Society will make do with what we have and make it work. This development, that's a good question. I teach this development master's seminar. It's called Development Policy and Strategy. And one of the things that we start off with is thinking, many people think development is about economics, right? It's just economics. Give me money and everything will be fine. And development is much more, right? It's this kind of human growth, human well-being. And human well-being is, threefold, right? If you can put it that way. It's economic, it's political, it's social. Getting these three things to work together requires governance, right? Requires a lot of input from all sides, all perspectives. And it's about consensus building ultimately. And that's a hard thing to do.
That's the hardest thing here.
Yeah. Interestingly, somebody said, Armenia, never a smaller population, never more opinions. I heard that. I didn't make that up. I heard that once. So I'm referencing, giving credit where credit is due.
That's what we learned with him as well. We got to reference everything.
Yeah. Give credit where credit is due. And I think that's the problem, and that takes time, and that takes a bit of trial and error. But I think these countries you mentioned, these developed countries. These countries, if you took a development class, these countries, many of them were free to develop.
Yeah.
Right. And Armenia is in a tough spot where, to a certain extent, it depends on you. But many times you're also constricted by external factors, the internal environment in which you're living in. And that's definitely not a free environment, right? You're constricted by so many things. By enemies and by friends of what they expect from you, right? But I think also, this kind of, and I speak here more because we're in a candid environment. I feel like, I hear this a lot in Armenia. Education is going to set you free. Education is going to develop you. And of course, we are in the business of that. And we are in that model, right? Because we go to school every day. We are in that narrative of that. But in reality, you have many educated societies that are not developed. And I'll give you a prime example of that is Cuba. An extremely literate society, what Castro did for literacy in Cuba is amazing. They also, per capita, have the highest rate of doctors. Yeah. But are they developed? Well, the Cuba is a beautiful country and all of that. But on that scale of what it means to be developed, right, they are lagging behind. So is just literacy, education going to set you free, set you to get all that what you want as a human, right? It definitely helps. It's a good basis for it, but it's also how you use that. How you use that education. Can you diffuse all those skills, all that knowledge that you have? Right, and that's the big question that Armenia has to ask, because you can have a very highly educated class, and like for example from our graduates. My concern is, are these guys, when they finish, when they get all of these skills, are they going to be able to use them in sectors in which they are trained? Or it's all going to be, I graduated AUA and now I work in IT.
Yeah, usually it's that one.
And that is a big problem because, again, that is not sustainable development. Yeah. So it's as much as it's about education, it's about also then being able to provide avenues for people to diffuse all of these skills, put them to good use, rather than everybody running into one sector that is lucrative for now and keeping everything else dormant, and then these problems start piling up until a new sector opens and then everybody's in that sector. So this is a tough position, but it's also not a position that only Armenia is facing. I see this the same in Serbia. I see this all across the world. And it's something that requires time, requires a lot of testing, right? Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. But I think the big one is trying to get these three, if you will, streams: the political, the economic, and the social, not in harmony. This is then idealism, utopia, but at least talking to one another, right? And that sometimes is the hardest part.
You know what I also understand? It's always a trend. You remember there was a time when everyone in your class, they would say, I work in, this company that does, I can't mention what they do, the ones in America.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The ones that drive.
Yes, I've heard of these companies.
So everyone was doing that at a point. Like, I'm talking politics majors, even the IT guys, even the data scientists, everyone was in the said load. It was called loaded. But they would understand what that is, but that's what we called it. Everyone was doing it because in the first couple of even the first year, insane profits. Like everyone in Armenia was making 10K a month, and they were going nuts. And then of course everything dropped by because what do Armenians do? They always find a way to up something. They always find a way to take something good and it up by stealing, and they started stealing.
Oh, really?
So that's how it went down. That's how they started not providing the correct documentation. That's how they got the people. They didn't give the correct paperwork. They stopped paying the drivers, or they paid the drivers way too much to steal the goods. And that was the most insane part because that still keeps going on. So it's always about these trends. Like everyone in Armenia, they think, okay, if I study in this, let's say the diplomacy program in Armenia, I'm not going to become a diplomat.
I mean, some will, but it's a handful. It's like footballers. Everybody plays football. But how many of them actually become footballers? Right? It's 1%, 2% is going to be that. The others are just going to be kicking around the ball. And that's nice, but you're kicking around the ball.
And it's not always the best students who become it. Like, it's the ones that are the most cutthroat, the ones that, let's say, will go to the diplomatic school, they'll get their shit done. They'll be like, okay, I wasn't the best there, I'll be the best here. And it's about connection, it's about the building that.
It's about, part of it is luck, part of it is connection, part of it is education. And part of it is, this is self-confidence, if you will. Hey, I know and I can do it. And just selling yourself, right? Selling yourself. Which is also something that I'm always worried about, selling myself. Sell yourself to your employer. And these are
I'm not a prostitute to sell myself.
I'm not even a prostitute, but just I'm not a good to be sold on the market. I'm not a slave, you know.
Exactly. Well, we're going to be right back with our next topic, which is going to be the direction we're heading in at the end of the day after this entire conversation. And we're back with the Dmel podcasts, and our next topic of discussion is a simple one. Is Armenia heading in the right direction, basically? Very broad, but like
basically, I want a basic question for a very complicated answer. Right?
Exactly.
Well, I think that's the answer. The easy answer to that is depends where you're sitting, right? What's the perspective? Is it heading in the right direction? I think
like
in
your
some
eyes,
ways,
as an instructor, as like the person that we look up to. We're like, we want to hear your opinion on this. I have a different opinion for sure, but like I want to hear yours. Like, what do you think as an outside eye? Like you've been here for already 3 years, and that's not like a short time. It is quite long.
I would say it's a microcosm. It's a microcosm that I can speak to, because how much do I really get out there outside of AUA, outside of Yerevan a bit, but I don't really know what's really happening from just these small outings. I'd say in some ways it is. If you talk about it kind of from the economic sense, if you judge from Yerevan, but then I think that the differences and the schism between those who have and those who have not, the haves and the have-nots, is growing, and I think that's worrisome for people. I mean, it's always existed. You cannot deny that it was also in Soviet times, but it wasn't so pronounced, right? At least it wasn't so visible to the people. On the other hand, politically, socially, that's now a different question. Judging from, when I compare this to Serbia, I would say from a political stand, I would say it seems it is developing. If you're pro or anti this government, pro Pashinyan, anti Pashinyan, I don't have an opinion on this, and I shouldn't. I always tell my students, I don't, and I tell you this. This is for you to decide. Are you Armenian? Yes, you are. You decide. I can tell you. And I hate when foreigners come in and they give a judgment call. That's for you to decide. But what I do appreciate is that seems to be this, at least at AUA, and maybe that's a microcosm, you have to tell me that, is that there is a freedom to express it. Where I find, for example, in the Serbian scenario, I find that political freedom to express is getting smaller and smaller. I don't know if that's happening also in Armenia. Maybe we're in the start of it, those freedoms decreasing. That's for you to decide.
It's always when I look at it, you know the shit I've been through, which
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
going to
yeah,
mention
yeah,
because I don't want to go to the police.
Yeah.
The amount of crap that I got into because of those protests, not just from the university standpoint, from people. In Armenia,
really?
it's always the majority is gonna press the living shit out of you. You know, it's gonna press you hard. It's who gets out of it alive. You know, like if they're gonna press you, like I don't give a shit, and you keep
Then
pressing.
if that
you
is the
know?
case, then it's not the best.
Yeah, because
But my question is, do you feel that from a political or from a social? Because there's a lot of social pressure in Armenia. How you dress, what you do. You know, even at AUA, like, are you wearing correct outfit today?
Yeah.
But where do you draw that line between the political and the social?
I would say that in Armenia, it's always mixed because everyone thinks that they have an opinion on politics and they think that their opinion is valid.
In every Orthodox
Yeah,
country,
exactly.
everybody's a politician, everybody's a doctor.
You introduced us to this coffee shop politics thing that which I related to a lot in the terms of Armenia. Everyone always thinks that their opinion is valid, so and it's not. But yes, freedom of expression. I mean, we can express ourselves. They haven't killed us yet. Other countries have it worse. Even France, like they get riots and shit. Like France is known for its riots and all that. But here, like, we had some bad instances, and I even had class with you during the
I remember
during the
doing that,
nationalism class.
Yes,
and we had this. It wasn't an argument. It was a heated discussion. I'm like, so what's the point of this? Like, I'm a nationalist. Like, I like my. You'll bleep that out. I like my country. I like this, and then you're like, okay, but nationalism is from this perspective. You got the primordial. You got this. All of these ideas, and I'm like, okay. At the end of the day, it's easier to call myself a patriot. You know, like it's always understanding that my opinion is not something that people need to listen to, and I'm always gonna get stuck on my opinion, even though I do my research, I study in this program. But it's always like someone's going to study better than me and they have a completely different opinion. And we're not going to like each other. That's already from the social point. It always leads to bashes and clashes on the social sphere. Because I've lost friends due to politics, due to political opinion and expression as well. And at the end of the day, it's always going to be like what you're willing to sacrifice for your idea, you know, for what you believe in. So for me...
But at the same time, you've got to come back and go, you know what, at the end of the day... We're people, and so it's such a weird one. That this kind of schism, and where's the line between the political and the social? And
here I would say there is no line. Like everyone just mixes everything up. Like at the end of the day, someone's gonna just end up blaming Pashinyan for like their dog pissing on the street in the wrong place. You know, like it's always this. There is no like healthy middle. There is no.
It's also about accountability and taking responsibility. And there's a what I don't like is sometimes, in the States, you have this, that you believe too much in agency, right? You can change everything. And on the other hand, is taking no responsibility, no accountability, and waiting for somebody else. And where is that middle ground? I think that's the healthy middle ground. And how do you get that middle ground is really hard.
I always remember in your wife's classes, she always used to stress that a lot, like, everything, institutions, all of those things, like they matter. The structure, this, everything needs to be like in this neat little bow. I'm like, we don't even have a bow at this point. Like we're a clusterfuck of a mess in here, and we're trying to make do. Like we're trying to rearrange, but it's still a clusterfuck, and it's gonna take a
because
long
many of the institutions here and in many of these developing countries is not actually institutions, but it's people. And when those people die, that institution, which was that person, died with it. And so that's hard. You said, one thing that I have to stress, and I've been pining about this for some time, is in Armenia, is it going in the right direction? And this is not only about Armenia, but generally I see this also in Serbia. Me and my very good friend Aspet Kuchikian talked about this weekend.
He's going to be there very soon. Next podcast after him, whenever this airs, because I don't give out spoilers, but there will be trailers. Aspet Kochikan is next, of course, but go on.
I feel like in all of these countries, it used to be that we didn't know the rule book for governance. We didn't know anything. Now we've read the book. We know the terms. We know collaboration, participation, cross-pollination. Everybody's getting turned on by these words. But at the same time, we're not meaningfully implementing it. right? We call a session, what do you think? Thank you for your opinion, go away now, right? Nobody, I guess it's about this difference between hearing and listening. I guess we've come to this in a good sense. I would say we're going in the positive direction because we're hearing one another. But to really be in the right direction, it's about listening to one another.
Yeah.
And that is where we're lacking, where we're putting in all of these, we're doing all the techniques, but they don't have the real meaning because we're doing them half-assed, if you will.
Yeah.
Or just to fulfill a tick box. Did we hold an election? Yes, we did. Let's move on. Did we call an opinion poll? Yes, we did. Move on. And that works for a time, but people are after some time, right? If you fill out 5 questionnaires and you tell the supermarket, I don't like your assortment of milk and cheese. 6th time after that, you hear that you're not actually, your voice isn't being not heard, but listened to. And you change the supermarket or you absolutely buy your own cow and start milking it. Yeah. And that's the problem. And that's the problem everywhere. And I see this is not an Armenian only issue. I think it's all across the world. We're going through the motions of governance, development, but without really meaning it. And that's my problem. And I think that's a human problem. And I don't know how to fix that. That's good luck to you.
I also feel as though a lot of these, we learn about ideologies, right? We learn that there's all these differences and all this. At the end of the day, if I'm either going to sound very dumb for this or very, very smart for this. Everything's the same. Like, development-wise, it's not about ideology. It's not about who you believe in. You develop in one way. You develop in a good way. You know, you want to be economically, let's say, stable. Everyone wants at least some money. Like, you can't tell me that there's an ideology in the world. Okay, there is some. But you can't tell me that it's being financially well off isn't, like, the public's number one standpoint. Okay, maybe ideologically someone is like, no, we will this, that. Was
I think you're getting to this idea of like all of these ideologies, maybe don't mention to one, but they have a common ground, and that is they all want to help people.
Yes.
Like how they go about it, there's some basic needs out there that have to be met. Exactly. And I think all these ideologies agree on those basic needs. Well, all of them. But let's say that these more mainstream, the question becomes of how you're going to actually get to it.
Of course, there's certain topics, let's say, the debate between Trump and this Harris, the comedy show. I loved it. It was amazing. There is conflicting topics. Okay, we get it. Like at least 10 things they talked about. They only talked about the things that differ, but they don't talk about, let's say, a person being well off. She talks about the middle class. Okay, in Armenia we don't have a middle class. Because Armenia's middle class is
the IT
is poverty at the end of the day.
Yeah, or this thriving IT class, I think, in a way. Yeah. Right? It's not really
any person that works in places like Digitain, can we say that? Like whatever. The people that work in Digitain, Toto, all those things, these big corporate powerhouses in Armenia, that they make, we make $1,400, $1,500 in a month. We're set. We're good.
But actually, what do you understand? You know, we were talking about this last week in my class. What is the middle class? And I mean, money is a factor in middle class. But in essence, what we came down to is that middle class is about: do you have leisure time?
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you have time to think about yourself and to relax?
Most of the people don't, because they become this part of this corporate chain, and they get stuck in a loop. Well, I mean, I'm not anyone to diss at those people. My friends are those people, but I see them, I say, once a month.
Yeah.
But for example, I'm the type of person that would say, okay, I'm not going to make that much money. Maybe I'll make half that money for a month, maybe triple that next month. Yeah. But I know that I have this freedom to do this. I have this freedom to do something productive, let's say, for me, not
have
for...
freedom to get a higher education.
Exactly, yeah. And all of those things together, I think, it just shows that when people in Armenia, they find somewhere good, they're set, they lease a car, they have a girlfriend that they can take out, let's say, on the weekend one day.
Yeah, I made it.
That's it. That's like the top of the food chain.
Armenian and Nirvana.
Yeah. all of those things together, I think, for the lesser, let's say, I'm not gonna say uneducated, but the less privileged to study in a university like this to get that Western education. Because I was always like this person, no, this is bad. All these teachings are bullshit. I don't like this. I'm like, what are you teaching me? But then I'm like, okay, it's chill. It's not that bad. It's not that.
I guess, I think if you approach this Western education, right, you can be critical of Western education and say, in a way, it's subjugating you, right? It's telling you that I know something that you don't, and here's how you should. But I think at the end, also at the same time, this Western education, you should take from it more a way to think about things, rather than what to think about things. And I think that's the power of Western education, and you can't level that criticism, right? It does teach you what to think to a certain extent, but it's this way to think about things that is so valuable, and that I think is unique and valuable to Western education versus other educations.
Yeah.
They do it more. They're guilty of what to think, but they still teach how to think, and that's, I think, the value and the uniqueness of a Western education that we cannot deny. Right, regardless of how critical or not you are of the West.
And there is also this trend that's been going around. My girlfriend,
You have a girlfriend. Good to know. Everybody now knows.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm supposed to say that because she's the jealous type, and I love her with all my heart and soul, and I love her like.
There you go. There you go.
Like everything. But she has a sister, and she's younger. She's 14, and she studies in Avak de Brus. High school. Yeah. So she just turned, and there is always this trend. Once you finish ninth grade in Armenia, you have to pick an Avak de Pros, that high school.
Yeah. It's like.
So she went to the French college.
Okay.
So those are the private ones, like the ones that cost a butt ton of money. But the education that she's going to receive there, in the Armenian sense, okay, she's going to learn a bit of French, like literally a bit, nothing more. But that's charging for prestige. That's not charging for the education you receive. It's for you to go and be like, yeah, I finished the French college before university. And that's also a big thing in Armenia. So the privileged ones.
Yeah.
And there's always the guys that are not going to study and they're not going to do shit in those colleges. Because, well, the entire idea is that it's only for prestige. It's only for you to show up. There's guys that are 16 years old driving in their Brabuses, getting there and just drinking coffee and not going to class, and they finish. And that entire field, and that's a private one, which is a good one. I went to a public school here, an insane one. And by insane, I mean insane. I'm going to tell that little short story. It's called 29th High School.
29th, that's the place, yeah?
Yeah.
That's where it goes down.
Yeah, it goes down. So in this 29th High School, there was a knifing.
Oh, wow.
There was like a huge fist fight. Everyone drops out of their classes. Like they get on the hallways. People knifing each other. It looks like Sasumci David is gone again, and all the Persians are coming. It was insane. And bear in mind, we're like 15. We're 15, 16. And you see that also impacts what you're going to do in the future. Like, you're going to be like, okay, I learned nothing.
Yeah, it's a survivalist mentality.
Thank God I studied abroad. Like, I speak 6 languages. Okay, that's because I studied abroad. With that, I was never going to get into AUA. I was never going to get into any good higher education. And the exact same shit goes down in any, like, institute in Armenia. Anyone. And that's what I understand. Like, again, we're not heading in the right direction, in my opinion. So what I'm trying to get at with all of these things, in my opinion, a very low number of people actually realize the direction we can head in and find positives in it. But on the broader, like, it is literally close to impossible to understand like how we're heading in the right direction if everything's gone to shit.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, again, it's how you feel about things. Like development. Progress, all of this, it's a matter of perception a lot of times, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like I can give you these cookies, right, and tell you this is the most amazing, and you might think, oh my God, he's giving me something really nice, or you might think, look how little he has given me, how small these cookies are.
It's always who gets the biggest piece of the pie, right?
What is big and what is small.
And as a matter of fact, he hasn't eaten one of those cookies because they look nice.
Yeah, they look nice and they're arranged nicely, so we gotta keep the nice environment in which
the aura.
Yeah. We don't want to disbalance it.
All right, so I just want to, before we end off this part of the segment, sure. I want to tell a little story about your watches.
Okay.
So before I get into politics and governance. I was an EC major. I was the poetry emotion. Like I was
Shakespeare. Reincarnated
exactly.
in the South Caucasus.
So yeah, and then I take my beret and then I'm going on, and then I see a video. I already changed to politics and governance before I took off my scarf and my beret.
Oh wow!
I put a video on YouTube. I'm like, I always have this like KGB idea that I have to research everyone before I meet them. Like I gotta know everything about you. I know what you're gonna wear the first day you come to school, to uni, you know. So I see this video, super chill guy. He's talking about his watch. It was Uros, by the way. So I'm like, man, this guy's cool, and he's my instructor. Holy shit! Because, you know, I'm going to tell you this. You might have never found out about this if I didn't tell you. I don't know if you know. Everyone was a snob when they got into the politics and governance program. Why? Because at that time, we were the only guys that were going to get taught by the provost.
Oh, wow.
So Brian Ellison at the time, a very good instructor, was going to come on one of these podcasts one day. He was supposed to give us, because I'm like, dude, we have the provost giving us classes and shit. And then we see like, where's Brian Ellison? Who's Uros Prokic? And everyone's, who's this? I'm like, wait, I'll do my research. Then I found out he's like the super chill guy. I'm like, damn, this is gonna be the best semester of my life. And I wasn't wrong. It was the best semester of my life. So long story short, you didn't know about the story, did you?
No, I didn't.
It was really funny. I'll tell you some like behind the scenes about that. And yeah, you have a watch collection, right?
Yeah, I have a watch. I love watches. Yeah, I think there's like. I wouldn't consider myself a very materialist person, but I do like a few things, and I have to say that I do love watches, and I like collecting, and I think it's a very interesting thing when it's also a community in a way. Horology is a community in itself. You know, this time is so important. It's such a weird thing. Time in general, from a philosophical point, right? It's a social construct, right? But at the same time, it's so important. Like, it's just undeniably important. So from that point, but yeah, watches have always been something that I like. I think actually my father got me into watches. My father was a pilot.
I know that from the video.
And they I think the pilot community in general is into time and watches.
And they always have the like really good.
You know,
they have those pictures when they stand but they gotta show off the watch too.
Definitely. So I got into it, and I think I took it a little further than he did. But I kind of have an eclectic watch collection. I'm not a mechanical automatic movement snob. I like my quartzes. I like my mechanical. I like my self-winders. I like my automatics. And I have a bit of everything. Some of them have memory. Some of them have just, you know, you wait for it for a long time, and then you're like, you finally get your piece. People always ask me, do I have a grail piece? I don't think I have a grail piece. I think I like different things. I like Swiss watches. I like Russian watches. I like Japanese. Whatever tweaks my interest. Peaks or tweaks. Peaks my interest. Let's go with peaks.
This is the best part about collecting anything. I collect Funko Pops. You know what those are?
No.
It's little square toys. Like, I'll show you after this. It is the most amazing thing. And they cost upwards of like $2,000 for a toy. It is crazy.
Really?
I will show you. It's a whole world out there. So I understand completely. Like you get that. I'm still like very young for this. Like you save up the money and you're like, okay, I can get this. I want this. And then you look at it. It's like a goddamn toy, but damn, it's so nice. It makes you feel some way. It gives you that
many times
feeling.
you're like, like should I pay this for this watch? Or and then you're like, damn it. Sometimes you gotta treat yourself. Though I have to say, at AUA, lately there is a fine community of us in PG who are watch aficionados.
Oh yeah, I bet. I have one watch that is very very rare. It's one of only 2,000 made. It's the Dmel collection. It was at the time with the lupa, you know, that you put it and it zooms into the watch and then you can take it out. So it's basically two watches in one. I'll go show you that one. It's really nice. That's, I believe, I have a couple of them as well. I have some Avis, you know, the Armenian ones.
Oh yeah, AWI.
Yeah.
I have an AWI. I'm gonna tell you. Yeah.
And they're also cool. Like
they're very cool. They're pretty good. They're pretty good quality. I got this one that's actually a mechanical automatic movement with. It's actually, they say that it's a Frank Mueller casing that they probably got from the factory when they were. when they were moving out from that collection. And actually, it has the Armenian indices. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool watch. I have that. I bought that for myself as a memory, one of those memory pieces.
Yeah.
You gotta have a memory piece, buddy.
Of course. And this last thing I'm gonna say about this, I ordered this one watch.
Okay.
It's supposed to come from the U.S. It's an Armenian. The funny thing, it's an Armenian person who makes those watches, but they're cheaper in the U.S. Don't ask why.
That usually,
it is insane. It's the Icelink ones.
Oh yeah.
The ones that are like 6 watches and they're like yay big. It looks like a
God.
like it looks like you're in house arrest without your arm.
6 time zones, huh?
Yeah.
From Armenia from sea to sea. For
Exactly.
every potential time zone that Armenia should be in.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. We're gonna be back and we're gonna be talking more about Armenia and everything in between. So stay tuned. This is going awesome. Okay, we're back, and for now, Armenia is basically, as you understand, the theme of all of this. And I always say that Uros is more of an Armenian than most Armenians, because, like, the Serbia, Armenia, like we're
connection.
Yeah, it's
brotherhood and unity.
Exactly. So, for me, I wanted to ask this: what is the most fascinating thing about Armenia in your eyes, and what do you see as a resource in Armenia? Like, why are we special? We're not special, but why are we special?
Okay. So, what is the fascinating thing about Armenia? I thought about it a bit, and I think for me it's these diametrical opposites in every shape and form, right? One of the things, like sometimes I think about, like a really developed banking system, and then problems with garbage collection in Yerevan with a garbage that was on fire for like a week and a half and can't be stopped. So if you think about this type of diametrical opposite, or sometimes differences in like Kentron in Yerevan and then some rural area in Armenia. But I think what is also interesting is how for a small country, you go 50 kilometers and the topography changes astronomically. Right? Sometimes in countries you go for hundreds of miles and it's like the same. Whereas here you're like 50 miles and you're in Dilijan, like, it's green. And then you get out of that and it's like these steppas, or it's really interesting, these diametrical opposites in Armenia. I think that's something that I find very interesting. And I always tell people, and I have to tell you this, I thought it was only me. And then my cousin visited me. And we said the same thing, before I came to Armenia, this idea of what I know about Armenia before I came to Armenia. You're Orthodox, because that's like the Serbian thing. What do we know about Armenians? They are Orthodox, right? And when I came here, and my cousin said the same thing, is that I was very shocked that in Yerevan there is not more churches.
Oh yeah, well in Yerevan we counted, like we have. In Kentron, let's say, like close to the ends of Kentron, you'll fact check on that for us. He always places.
Oh yeah. You keep us honest, buddy. Keep us honest.
So I would say yes, because what we had are like fishka. What everyone likes in this place is that the religious tourism. Everyone. Big fan of. Even like the smallest place, the smallest cave you get in.
Yeah. That is true.
We have some crazy things. But
yes, you do. Yes,
you're true. When in Kentron, I would say, we have. I'm not gonna call it church mainstream, but the mainstream ones that everyone goes to. Let's say, for example, we live close to one of them, which is the Ani Church.
On a Bovjana. Is that the one on the left-hand side? And then you've got this one here.
Next to Saryan as well.
Yeah.
We have those two, and then the next one is. Guess around Komitas? Like there is not. Yeah,
that one on Komitas at the end by the bridge. Yeah.
So I would say that they could have definitely done that, and there's also
But then when you get out of Yerevan, then actually it becomes more prevalent. And
there are some places like they're only like,
in Yerevan.
What? Overall, but there's
16
only 16
in Yerevan and 4,000 in Armenia. There you go. That is your polar opposites right there. So that's what I sometimes think of when I think of Armenia. or the Lada and then the G wagon. Yeah, it's really an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a type also, like
Oh yeah,
it's
everybody.
polar opposites. Like the people that drive Nivas, like I'm not gonna say
They're a
the
social
cows.
class.
Yeah. But
How
done
they
by
dress,
themselves.
how they.
Very good anthropology class only for us. Like for Armenia, having just focusing on anthropology in Armenia, my God, you will find crazy things, and you get that through from a young age. I think what's fascinating to me as well, from a young age, you already have your class, you already have what you're gonna be in, what group you fit into, and that's gonna be you for the rest of your life.
There's not a lot of fluidity to that.
Yeah, and the people that get out of those parts, they usually got to wake up and be like, okay,
Consciously
I've been in
choosing
that,
this.
let's say, hood, kucha, you know, I left the kucha, now I got to do something with my life. But there's also people that they turn 40, 50, and those are the people that you see in the bisetka sitting, the old people, like they've stuck there, they've been there, they didn't
They're
leave.
comfortable in that milieu.
They got married, they have kids, they barely live off paycheck to paycheck, and for them, life is like that. But then, of course, there's people that strive for more.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what is a critical resource to focus on for us? What can we focus on? I think religious tourism is always going to be that number one thing. We have that statue of Jesus coming up, the biggest
tourism,
one.
yeah.
Have you heard about it?
I've heard of it. I haven't been. I mean, tourism is one thing. The only problem is I don't know how sustainable that is in the long run. People see something, and people, you know how they every news is news for one day. Tomorrow is already old news.
Well, you have the Eiffel Tower, for example. It's
yeah,
ugly.
true.
I've been there. I went up. I'm like, okay.
It's one thing. Yeah. I think tourism is definitely a thing, but I don't know if Armenia can live off tourism. I think a different maybe this this kind of I think that generally I think Armenia is this unity and homogeneity of its society can be a really good engine for progress whatever it does. I think one of the things that people underestimate in Armenia is how artistic you are as a society.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's a really a treasure trove to tap into. How this art can be used in various sectors, from I think marketing, right, to use it in an inventive way. Marketing is just not just business marketing; it can be very much in this artistic way. I think that's something that I'm very impressed by in Armenia is this artisanary, right?
Yeah.
Or how do you say it? This artistic element to Armenia is shocking. It's really amazing to see. A wonderful thing.
And also as well, like we're always noted as this, like the constructions that we have, the old ones. Like we're always for like this building that we're in, for example, this Kadishenk, like these rock buildings.
Yes. These rock.
They stand any earthquake. My God, they're gonna stand and they're not gonna give out. And they've been built like years and years ago. Like all of these new buildings, like they're always not. This,
that's a question. That's a question. Yeah. Well, how stable that is.
But for the artist, there's a bad joke that says like an artist becomes an artist after he dies, and then his paintings.
Yeah, if that is the case, that means that's pretty tragic. Right? Then let's not do that artistry then. But I think it can be used in various different ways. I think human resources definitely is the thing, and of course, I think one way which is it's proven is through this IT, how Armenia has quickly moved to this IT sector and transition and adaptability. Adaptability and everything else. And I think, of course, a resource is just this geo-strategic location that Armenia is in, and it's getting all the more important. With kind of China's ascent, Russia's competition. I think that's something that Armenia can take advantage of. Yeah,
for sure.
And who knows what else? Lithium is now the thing in Serbia, and apparently we're a big treasure trove of lithium. So who knows what other resources Armenia might be sitting on? Everybody's like oil and gas. And oil and gas are things that are. I'm not saying that it's going to be the end of oil and gas tomorrow, but I think that other resources are being exploited, and who knows where Armenia is standing on those resources. So. There's stuff here, and the question is just to manage them and also protect them wisely.
There's this one thing that my father always told me when he was still ambassador in the UAE. He met Sheikh Khalifa.
Okay.
And at the time, he said that they were talking that you're this richest country right now. You're on the strive. He's like, you're the richest country because you have water. We're a desert. And that stuck with me. I'm like, if that guy says that, because they've done this water purification, like they've been doing it for at least like 15 years. The ocean water. It tastes like crap.
I don't think you ever drank. I never drank.
I drank it once, and it tastes like utter crap. And our water,
desalinated water.
Yeah, we have our this pulpulaks everywhere.
Yeah,
and every person that I've seen, a tourist, a friend that comes here, like, how the hell do you give free water like this?
I don't know what. I'll tell you, there was some discussions lately that I've heard. Is this water security in Armenia? It's
getting there. Yeah. It's getting bad.
Especially because from Turkey they're damming and they're in this basin higher. And they dam. What's going to happen to Armenia, who's caught in that kind of middle? And of course, they're going to regulate with Azerbaijan just because they are in a better relationship with them. But where is Armenia in that? It's a huge thing, and it's going to become all the more.
Because everyone needs water. I mean, that's what.
Absolutely.
Like, for example, we're drinking Jermuk right now. Jermuk. Like, we have it flowing. It's just flowing there, we're just there.
You're just taking it.
Yeah. Well, I want to move on to this. This is more of a question for me and for the people that I've got classes for you with you. I want to ask you, how hard has it been, like, as an instructor to Armenian students? Because, like you've seen, we're different. Like, we can be dicks sometimes. Like, I know. And the debates between us, there was this one time, I remember, I'm sorry for mentioning this, but we were in the Manugyan Hall, the big hall.
Okay, Manugyan.
Most terrible place to hold a class, but with the best instructor. So there was this heated debate, and everyone just stands up and starts screaming at each other. Like, I'm screaming, the girl's screaming, and there's someone's over there screaming.
You get heated, you guys. Yeah. You know what they say? All people are different, but students everywhere are the same. I don't know if that is true. I mean, some dynamics are the same. But some aren't. I would say it's what is interesting about you guys is I would say, I think genuinely you're curious about things. Yeah. You are curious, and you are clever. A lot of you. Sometimes the reading, the literacy, not the literacy, just the reading and the stamina of reading sometimes is lagging. But you pull it off with the cleverness, and just I'm just gonna do with what I know, and I'll play around with it. I think sometimes just pushing you guys in the long term, right? Sometimes you lose the energy, you lose the enthusiasm, but at the same time you are interested in things, and I think a lot of you come in and say, I just want a good job. But I think deep down, a lot of you, especially in PG, and I'm here biased because I teach PG the most, right? I teach some Gen Ed, but generally, you do care about where your country is going. There are intrinsic reasons for why you're here, not just instrumental. I just want to get by and do the best, which is nice to see. So I think that is right. You're doing it for some greater good. And I think that is what I would say really sets you apart from generally. Because people just come to university for instrumental reasons now.
Outside,
generally.
I've seen that as well. Like, I think our environment is like... Have you been to Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Have you been to Glendale?
I haven't been to the capital of Armenia.
When you go there...
I haven't had that blessing.
You will see the exact same people you see at AUA.
Oh, really?
No difference, and everyone hates each other, and it is crazy. It is a mess.
Really?
And in the US, like, my most hated place to go to is Los Angeles. I do not like it at all. I like Boston a lot. Massachusetts as a whole, I love it. Nantucket, shout out to all my people in Nantucket. I love all of you. But, yeah.
Los Angeles, huh?
The people that go from here to there, they don't change. They change what's there,
Is that? Do you have a saying? We have the saying that you can take a man out of the village, but you can never take the village out of the man. Yeah, so
he relates to that. He's out. There you go. It's always like that. Like, and when I see them, it's like, we don't fit in. We become the new norm. That's always what happens. And when there's one Armenian, it's scary. When there's already 5 of them, that's it. Like, they'll take over the world. That's what they do. And the next question I want to lead up to is like,
Okay.
what have you liked the most, like working with us? You know, like after classes as well, of course, because
Okay.
you're the type of instructor that everyone after class. I remember there was a line, Hamo. There was a line to talk to him. It was just a chill guy, you know, like he's our instructor, and it's just not to talk to him about class. Of course, we had that one edgy student that's, what reading do I have to do? We had that edgy student, of course, but we were just waiting to talk to him. And every class, we would not let this man leave until we've all talked to him. And like for 30 minutes before every class, we would stay in that monogan hall. He would sit on that thing, and we would all sit in front of him and we would just talk.
Yeah.
So what is it that like you like most working with students?
I think that you question a lot of things, that you don't just eat up the bullshit, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, you always ask, okay, how is this applicable? Because you can read something, but at the end of the day, how is this applicable in real life? And I think that's something that's why you sat at the end, because yeah, you read this stuff, we talked about it, we talked about the theory, but now it's like, okay, what's now the reality of this?
Yeah.
And that's the big one that you guys.
The uncensored picture, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's like the kind of Japanese that you can't get on. You know what I mean? Size space. It's the Japanese you can't get online. You know, you gotta get the uncensored type and you gotta pay for it. It's a law. What are you laughing at? So yeah, you know, I'm gonna like kiss ass again, but we have this when we go downstairs and we smoke with the guys downstairs. We always talk after your classes. And the topics that were discussed in your class became like literal wars downstairs. Like we started bashing each other for no reason. There was this class about elections during our intro to PG class. And it was the case studies that we had to do.
Okay.
So I did my case study week 1. I just wanted to get it over with. I'm like, hey, there you go. Do you remember that?
Done.
Like a second weekend, like we're discussing syllabi and shit. I'm like, okay, I'm done with my case study. And I remember that because I'm the type of person that likes to finish everything fast. But whatever we discussed in his class, he had so much influence on us that we went downstairs and for an hour and a half of a break that we had, we just talked it over and over. But he said this, but I agree with him, but I don't agree with him, and it was crazy. And it was all the behind the scenes. Like you had a huge impact on shaping
class after class. Huh?
Oh yeah, we didn't even
the practicum.
Yeah, the practicum. You wrote that once big on the whiteboard. I remember you wrote it like huge letters. I'm like, yeah, that's it. So I want to get into this before we get our last break, and I asked this to everyone on the show. I ask about a favorite book, but for you, I'm gonna ask for favorite books because like, my 2 favorite books that I always say, it's both by Mark Bever, it's both the Handbook on Governance and everything to do with governance. And he's the one that gave me those like scanned copies of that book.
Mark Bever, he writes this Handbook of Governance. It's a pretty good one.
Because I don't like that. I don't like fiction. I like watching fiction TV shows, but I don't like reading it because I'm like, okay, I gotta imagine all this shit. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Like those 2 books have gotten through. They've saved my ass multiple times. And it's become like a staple for me. Like I've used it in countless essays, countless research projects, and I have a good GPA. I can just say that.
Those books, huh? They saved you.
Yeah, they saved me, and you were the one that introduced me to those. So, like, I think this one, like, I always put like little shorts and reels on Instagram. Can I say Instagram? I don't give a shit. I put them on Instagram, and I'm gonna put yours as tips, of course. Which books would you recommend for people, and what's each of them represent to you? Can you give me like at least a couple?
Oh God, you got me good here. There's definitely a couple. You know, some of it is of course is professional literature that I used. Some of it, I have to say, there's a few pieces of fiction that have stuck with me. I think let's go with the fiction. Is probably, I think as a kid my favorite book was this book called The Butterfly Lion. And I don't remember who wrote it. Maybe Hamo can find out. It's called The Butterfly Lion. That was my favorite childhood book. Of more kind of when I was an adult, I think Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment.
Oh yeah.
powerful influence and just thought-provoking on many levels. I think that was probably the most influential piece that I read as a high schooler.
Yeah.
Really influenced me. But then I think of this kind of, if you talk about kind of more nonfiction that had a powerful influence on me, I love Ernest Gellner's Nations and Nationalism, because
that was the book that destroyed me.
Yes, that's a tough one. This Nations and Nationalism text by Ernest Gellner, it really had a profound impact on me as I was researching nationalism. On my start of researching nationalism, really kind of questioned these ideas that nations are organic, that nations create states. His kind of thesis is that states create nations for the purposes of creating social homogeneity. So that really had an influence on me, that book. Another book that really had an influence on me was probably Anderson's Imagined Communities, this idea of social.
That also destroyed me.
Yeah, that of linguistic communities. But then I think both of those are kind of nationalism texts. And then out of kind of more PA stuff and public and how policy issues, I think canonic text. And I talked this to Dr. Gabrielin a few days ago. We were talking about this. Is this Deborah Stone's The Policy Paradox. All policy decisions, as much as we want to make them science, are ultimately political decisions.
Yeah.
And this idea that actually all of politics is about stories, right? I can tell you my values, I can tell them in a scientific way, but it's the stories that I tell about those values that are really interesting. And apart from, these types of books, I think this, I like autobiographies. I like reading autobiographies. And I think one of the books that really stuck with me, which was totally weird and I was gifted it by a friend of mine in Australia, is Juliet Gillard's autobiography. She was the only, for now, a woman prime minister in Australia. She wrote this autobiography, My Story, where she talks about her experiences as prime minister in Australia. And she really speaks about kind of women in leadership and just this misogyny in politics that we take for granted. It really opened my eyes on things that I until then I took for granted or never even thought about, and how she just, it was against all odds being a politician, a woman politician, being questioned on everything that a man would never be questioned on. I really like that book. I know also Obama wrote his own autobiography, and I thought that was interesting. But I thought Gillard's My Story was just kind of very, very frank conversation. Obama has that powerful narration, right, that you feel through. What comes out in Obama's autobiography is that all
Malcolm X and Martin Luther King
a lot of the stuff. But there's this kind of aspirational where Gillard is just, hey, as a public administrator, as a public figure, here is what happens, and this is how I'm dealing with this. So I thought that was interesting. I think Obama's was valuable to say that all politics is local politics. All global politics start from being local politics, and that's interesting to think about. Yeah.
Well, awesome.
These are just on the top of my head, just thinking about.
Yeah, but again, awesome. And both of these texts, I'm going to brag a little bit. I got an A in one of these classes.
Opa!
I got an A minus in the other one.
You remember?
Yeah, I remember. And Nations and Nationalism, I read it.
Canonic text for anybody in nationalism.
That class was so damn hard. I got an A minus, and I was like trying really hard, but I got so exhausted. I had 6 classes that semester. Remember? And it was like at 6. When was that class? It was like at 5:45 we went in, and 6:20 we left. It was crazy. So long day, 5 classes in a row. I'm like, I'm gonna get destroyed in this class. But I remembered every time it was Uros, I gotta do this.
You gotta do it, buddy.
Yeah. And Imagined Communities. That's the class I got an A in. It was our political philosophy class when we.
Did I give that in political philosophy?
That was the first reading. I even remember it. That was the basis of it.
Political philosophy.
Yes.
No, I think you took that in political sociology, buddy.
Oh no! It's impossible. I remember. I'll get the syllabus.
I'm gonna see why I gave that in the first class.
I even remembered
maybe social constructs.
It actually might have been in the nationalism class.
I think it might have been in the nationalism.
I remember. You know what I remember? I remember the picture when it was this cave as well.
Oh, that's the allegory.
Before the allegory of the cave. It was then.
Maybe I gave it, I don't know, but I don't think I gave it in my political philosophy. I know that my wife gives it in political sociology. I gave it in my nationalism class. What I did give in your political philosophy was another book that I had to give a shout out to, not because I actually agree with it. Actually, I disagree with it violently. It's a newer text that was written about nationalism and gained a lot of steam amongst the more conservative elements in the United States. It's called The Virtue of Nationalism by Hazoni, I think his name is. Something Hazoni. Very interesting text that I give in my political philosophy. Yeah. Yuran Hazoni. Yes. Yeah. Very interesting. It gained a lot of steam in the U.S.
I remember I hated philosophy, but I knew it was him. I'm like, okay, I gotta choose.
I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, yeah. But I hated it to an extent where I'm like, okay, these guys are just gonna. We talked about so many people, and all of those people were just annoying. One guy just rants about justice. The other guy rants about something. It was all rants. But at the end of the semester, we had this huge, and he has, again, I'm not. This part is not kissing ass. This is like showing what the only thing that kept us going. He had a lot of essays, and I love writing.
I'm an essay kind of guy, buddy.
That last one, I remember that was my best piece that I wrote.
It was actually. Yeah. I have to remember. Yeah.
Literally the best one that I wrote, and it was the longest one as well. It was like 15 pages long, and it was purely every single philosopher that we covered, every note that I had taken.
Oh, tracing the lineage of justice.
Insane. And I had like everyone in there. I had like a whole clusterfuck of every single philosopher, and it was on paper. And I have this video. I'm gonna find that video and I'm gonna show it to you. I'm sleepless for like 2 nights, and of course I submitted first.
You did.
I was like, I'm not gonna sleep this night. I finished the classes. We finished classes, and we had like a week and a half. I'm like, I'm gonna finish it today. So I'm in my robe.
Wow! Wow!
And then I have like Saloniki playing in the background, like Greek music, like
the Mozart effect.
Yeah. But like I'm dancing the whole way, and I'm just writing, and that was my
in the
best.
Moment, in the zen.
Yeah, that was my best.
Party
memory.
up.
If someone looked outside the window, they would think I'm high off my mind, but I was high off knowledge, Uros. So yeah. Last thing, we're gonna come back and we're gonna do our fun little game of blind ranking, and then Uros is gonna give you a TLDR, and we'll be done. We'll be back very soon. We're back, and now it's time to have fun because we have
fun. Fun is fun.
Fun is fun.
Fun is fun.
You always need to have fun.
You have to need fun.
Look, for today, because you're a special guest.
Special?
I always do like a top 5. For you, I'm doing the top 12.
Wow.
So you gotta do numbers 1 to 12. You write them down.
Okay.
And I'm gonna show my skills in Serbian.
Opa.
And you're gonna rank these. And by the way, I googled this. I didn't it's not my list. So I ranked the dishes of Serbia. The ones that looked like something like I ate before. And the descriptions were something that I ate before. So you're gonna blind rank them.
Okay.
And yeah, you're not gonna know what comes next. So then you might get stuck with something disgusting, which I saw in the list as well.
Okay.
Or you might get stuck with something good. We're gonna start with that. So, number 1, we're gonna do cevapi.
Cevapi.
The sausage.
That's
right?
yeah. That's very. You know what? I'm gonna go number 1.
Really? It looks nice on the picture too.
Cevapi, brother.
Cevapi.
I'm going 1 immediately.
I think you're gonna regret that.
No. For me, cevapi is.
So the ones that are hard to pronounce. Let's get those out of the way. Punjena paprika, right?
Oh, I love punjena paprika, and I make a mean punjena paprika. You know what? If there was one thing that I thought, should I put it 1 or 2? Yeah, so I have to, because I put cevapi as 1. I'm gonna put punjena paprika as 2.
We have some delicious stuff in here, man.
No, these 2 are for me.
This was the one I would put at 13.
You know what? I don't make cevapi.
Yeah.
I go out for cevapi. But punjena paprika I make, and I love punjena paprika.
What do they put inside? Like rice and meat, or?
Yeah, they put rice and meat and persun and carrot and celery, and there's different ways to make it.
Yeah.
But
you'll cook it up one.
Yeah. And they close it off with a part of tomato, and then you let it cook.
It's crazy. Basically, it's kind of similar to our like summer tolma.
Yes.
The one that we put
Yes,
everything
yeah. We also make these with grape wine leaves, but this punjena paprika. We also make it with tikvica with
Tikvica, pumpkin.
not pumpkin. It is a type of pumpkin. Yeah, you also can feel it. And I see that you also do that a type of.
Tikvica method, Google it. I think it's. I know. I've seen it in Balkan. That's video.
Yeah.
It says, is it zucchini? No.
Yes, zucchini.
Zucchini.
Yes, zucchini.
Ah, you see, Serbia. They don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
So next, I have kuimak.
Kaimak. Okay,
this is an A. This is my handwriting. That's not my bad.
Kaimak. But you have kaimak here.
You do.
Yeah, it's a version. I don't know how you call it, but you call it differently. We use the Turkish word, which is kaymak. I like that. You know what's kaymak? It's a mixture between cottage cheese and butter.
Oh yeah, bond. It's like
What do you call it?
Rejan. It's amazing.
Yes.
I would put Rejan like top.
No, you know what? I'm gonna put kaymak. My father's gonna kill me. My father loves it. I'm gonna put kaymak as
You have 12 there.
5. Top 5. Kaimak is a top 5.
Like I'm literally keeping. I always do this. I keep the good ones as last, and I'm getting like top 5s already.
Okay.
Okay, we got kaimak out of the way. I have rakia.
You know what? This is so not Serbian of me.
Oh, we're gonna leave this. We're gonna end this podcast now. Oh my god.
Rakia. I'm not a crazy rakia drinker. I'm not a crazy drinker in general. I'm not a crazy. A hard liquor drinker. I'm a beer, wine kind of guy. If I'm going to drink hard liquor, I'm going to tell you. Tequila. Tequila. I'm a tequila. And I like gin. But you know why? Because rakia, I associate, you know when you get a temperature, and then they put, my mother would put rakia on a cloth and a god.
Yeah.
So every time I think rakia, but if it's a good rakia, I like it.
Armenia, we have the arak, like
that's cognac. That is cognac.
No, arak. Like
arak, okay, I've tried that. Yeah.
The different ones, like
yes,
we have all the fruits and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to rakia.
It's very similar. Yeah.
So where do you put that? Man, I thought he was gonna be mad. Like I've never seen a person from Serbia that says they don't like rakia.
Okay. No, I'll drink it, but I'm not gonna sit there and. You know what? Let's put it at 7.
That's straight down the middle. He's there.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Ivar, you have this also.
We have it.
Yeah, you have Ivar. I've seen it in the supermarkets. My wife buys it also. But you mix it. We when we have Ivar, it's straight up red peppers. But you put eggplant.
Oh, it's baklajan ikran burar. That is amazing.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I'm not a fan of that.
Really? What about the Armenian one?
You know what? I like the Armenian one
because it's like oily.
This one is also oily. 11. By the way, Ivar is a southern Serbian thing, and I'm from the north. And I highlight that I'm always from the north. So I don't know. I'm not a 11.
11.
Okay.
We'll take 11 for that.
Yeah.
I saw the picture of it. It looked amazing, but then I saw the name. I'm like, I cannot pronounce it.
Ivar.
It's not this. This one.
Okay.
Knedle.
Looks
amazing.
It looks amazing on the pictures, and I've eaten it quite a few times. It hasn't been in my family a thing that we did. No, it's more of a winter thing. And I grew up in Dubai, so we didn't have a lot of strong winters. It's like hash. Would you eat hash in in August in Abu Dhabi?
I would eat it in a 50-degree weather. It's my favorite food. Uros. Everyone it's a type. See, it's again a division.
Wow.
We love it.
12.
So we got the last one out of the way. So I have it's slato, which is like
Slatko.
Yeah, it's like it means sweet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was like a jam, when I saw.
I know what Slatko is. You know what? If I knew that was even gonna be a thing on this, I put that as 12. So I have to put it with my heart. My heart is aching. I'm gonna put that at what I have now is 10. But I would definitely put that if I knew.
Oh, you don't like it?
No.
Gym.
Please.
Okay. But I have some really good ones.
Okay.
So look, again, another one that I cannot pronounce for the life of me is Chvarchi.
Schwarzi.
Schwarzi.
Oh,
So
that's,
it's on top when it's like this thing, it's a ch, and then it's a s. Okay.
Schwarzi. That's the pig fat that
It
is.
looks amazing. It's like chips.
Yeah. It's nice, but I wouldn't eat it a lot. We used to eat it sometimes with corn flour, like a grease kind of thing. I'm gonna go 9.
9. I mean, it's quite similar to the pork belly when they fry it, like fried pork.
That's kind of
yeah. I'm fat. I know my food. Like it's crazy. Okay, this one is the last. No, this is not the last one. That's very hard to pronounce. There's the Prebranac.
Prebranac.
Yeah.
That's your beans in the oven. I like prebranac. My father would definitely put it at the top 3. You know what? I like prebranac. I'm gonna go with if it's a good prebranac with a bit of. I like sweet paprika. Right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 6.
It's like similar to fool as well, right? Like the.
I don't know what fool is.
Arabic food, like the morning bean food.
Oh yes. Okay.
Like they only eat it in the mornings and food. It's like hash, basically.
Yeah. Prebranac 6.
Prebranac. Okay, we have gibanica.
Gibanica.
I'm the.
Gibanica.
That was what I was talking to you about in the car when we were getting here.
Oh, that's gibanica is different than burek. I'm gonna go with gibanica. How many? I have 3 more, right? God, I gotta choose wisely.
Yeah, you have 3 more. I'll spoil you a bit. They're all good.
Okay, I'll go 8.
So what's the difference between a burek and a gibanica?
It's how it's filled and how it's baked. It's different. I gotta be honest with you. Somebody who does gibanica will tell you better. But I like it, but I'm not gonna go crazy.
Okay, then you already mentioned it. We have the burek as well.
Burek. I don't know what number 3 is. Burek is high on my list. Okay, I'll go burek 4. What burek with what? That's the question. Cheese, okay.
Or meat.
You know, in Bosnia, where they have burek a lot, if you say burek, they always give you meat, right? You have to, burek with siriza, they say actually sirnica. Okay, but I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go with 4. And my son would definitely put this as number 1.
Burek.
Oh, yeah, he talks about burek all the time.
Because we're like, even for a khachapuri talk. Like,
yeah, it's a part.
Okay, and now you have your last one, which is number 3. I mean, your list is kind of okay. It's not that bad. We thought it was going to be worse. We have sarma. Yeah.
I'm gonna go 3, and I'm gonna say these are your holy trinity that I would say holy trinity for Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Cevapi, punjene paprike, sarma. You know what? I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I mean, you pulled it out, man. I'm like, wait, I have burek.
I really didn't see the list. Really,
it's true. I never show all my guests, all the people I've invited. I always say I'm gonna come up with something nice and come back every single goddamn time. And
my only regret is putting Slatko at 10, Knedle at 12. I would do a full rotation here, and it would be okay.
Knedle is like with mashed potatoes, right? It's made with mashed potatoes or something.
They do it with, but no, I think it's with they plum and then again. I haven't eaten that many times, but it's a type of grease. No, it's not mashed potatoes. I don't think it is.
Did I miss any good food?
You know what? You hit the spot.
I got the good.
Yeah. I would put this. Lamb under a sach.
Oh yeah.
That is a big thing.
The one that melts off like when you. The garsirumes. You like lamb? Lamb is amazing. You know, there's this whole stigma around lamb in Armenia, and they're like, oh, it smells when you cook it. No, if you cook it properly, it doesn't.
Properly, it depends what the lamb is eating and how long. You know what they say in Serbia? For good lamb, the lamb has to see the fire.
Yeah.
And as you're making the fire, you're killing the lamb to prep the lamb. It depends also what it's eating. It's a lot. The smell is from the eating and how young it is. There's a lot of things that go into lamb.
It's always like that one specific kind of animal that you gotta know the ways, and then you're gonna get the perfect.
Yeah.
So for the second part,
okay,
I asked this question in our last podcast with
Okay.
One of the.
With another famous man.
She was a woman.
Okay. Oh, woman. Wow. Why did I immediately
here at the Dmel
man?
podcast? We keep it like whatever. So I asked her a question. She was wearing like what was she wearing? Basically, she was wearing nothing that would fit into the scenario that I'm about to tell you. You the same. So, like right now, we get teleported into the jungle.
Okay.
And you got to do 5 things. What are the first 5 things you got to survive in that jungle for a week? What are the first 5 things you're gonna do? You're wearing exactly this, everything. You have nothing else, but you can. What are you gonna do?
Oh man, that's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of things to do, right? I think first is find water. That's your first thing.
You know what the first thing she said was?
What?
She's like, well, is there a coconut tree? I'm like, okay, there's a coconut tree. She's like, I'll climb the tree. Can I climb the tree? I'm like, do you know how to climb the tree? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, fine, I can climb the tree too. She's like, I'll get a coconut. And then I'll go sit by the beach, enjoy my coconut, and then I'll think about what I'm gonna do later. I'm like, you're gonna die.
Okay, well, she's taking a positive spin. I think my first would be, I guess, I survey what do you have, and I think I don't have a lot on me. So I think I'd first find water, then I'd scout the area around me, try to map it out, right, and then I'd see, try to see, try to develop some type of shelter. And then see with all what there is resources, try to somehow not teleport, but kind of find some way to start looking for help.
And how much time could you survive like that?
Uros, are we in a deserted, beautiful island?
You're alone on that island. There's animals. There's.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. If it's a beautiful island with beautiful beaches, I'm not even gonna ask for help. I'm just gonna stay.
You see, this is the kind of answer we were hoping for. She literally said, I'll grab a coconut, I'll sit down, you gotta enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I gotta say,
I'm like, my God. And then
if there's good fish, there's water.
You know how to fish?
Yeah, a bit. I'm not a great fisher. My wife is actually good at fishing.
Really?
You know that? Yeah.
I suck at fishing, but I know how to harpoon a fish. I can't fish.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I know how to do that. So yeah, now this is the time I relax.
Okay.
Well, to be honest, during every single podcast, there hasn't been any podcast that I've talked this little, and I love that. It is so amazing because every time I'm gonna carry it, he carried this conversation on his back. He has Armenia on his back at this point.
Yeah. Fighting for the people of Armenia.
So for our last little part, I want just Uros Prokic, the guy that came, taught us so much. I want you to teach the small community, well, small for now, your best tips that you could give my little community on developing every topic that we cover. Just give me a little summary.
Snippets, if I get a snippet, oh God, there's a lot. Oh Boże, right? I would say to you what I tell my in AUA, all my classes that come in, you come into university thinking you're going to change the world. When you finish your bachelor's degree, you decide, you know what, you can't change the world. So you go and get a master's and you think, I'm going to change at least the person next to me.
Yeah.
You come out of that and you decide, oh my God, I can't even change this person next to me. And the only thing that you can change is really yourself. So I think if you want to talk about development, I think it does to a certain degree. I think this is the part where agency is important. And you understand that it comes really to changing yourself, your daily habits, what you do, what you don't do. Where you throw the trash, don't throw the trash. Where you honk the horn, where you don't honk the horn. Where do you let the guy that's giving a signal to change lanes, do you allow him, do you not allow him? I think it comes from you, and if we do that little, I think it's gonna amplify itself. I think that's on the development part. I think on the governance part, if you talk about governance, I think it's about co-creating governance. And I think in Armenia, governance is going to be very different than what it means in Georgia, what it means in Timbuktu. And I think we all have to take a responsibility for that. And again, I think it's also responsibility of this Western community who's here to help or not help, is to allow you to express your version of what democracy is, what your version of development is. And there will be stuff that is universal, but I think it's going to be different for everyone to a certain degree. So that's on the governance part. And I think an educated society is important, but also an educated society that is able to diffuse all of that it's learned. Because you can preach things, but you want to see an output, right? And I think the biggest one is this: what you learn is that what you take from this learning, it has to be meaningful. Because you can ask people for your opinion, but if it just thank you for your opinion, off.
Yeah.
People after some time will disengage from that process. So you have to be meaningful about what you do. And I think that's really important. And I think most importantly is when you think about development, you look around yourself and you say, hey, is this conducive to my well-being and those around me? And if it is, then you're going in the right direction. If it's not, then you have a problem. You have to reassess and sit down. So I think that those are kind of the main takeaways that I would give from that. And I'm not preaching to somebody, but just saying, hey, I think this is something meaningful. Take what you want from it, because there is a lot of things that are good here. It's how you focus them and give them meaning, and getting people on the same page. There is stuff to criticize, and we should be critical. But we should also celebrate things that are good.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think that's that.
Well, I want to say...
before you end, we have an AUA gift. We have an AUA... I would like to say that it's free, but because you pay a tuition, then you pay for it. We are giving out socks, AUA, NPA, MIRD socks to you.
I have the exact thing for this, the picture.
Yeah.
We always take a picture at the end of every podcast, and we all something weird. He's going to be holding.
Yeah, and with the signal that politicians should be like socks. Change them often and always put clean ones on. So you and to your dear man here, Hamo, here's
your... look at the camera.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. To everyone, something, resources are being shared. I would like to say, yes, thank you for having me on, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you. What did I want to say? I wanted to say something.
Say it, buddy.
I wanted to say something smart. I wanted to be like, oh, thank you so much. But what I understood from all of these years that I've known Uros is that he's a man of community. He's a man of the Armenian community. And we often forget that he's Serbian because we really want a good Armenian like this to actually exist in our country. So, Uros, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, buddy. It's a pleasure.
So, yeah, we're done.